Yo, yo, yo. How you guys doing? Hope you guys doing well as always. Let's let the chat roll in. What's up, Prince? What's up, Zebek? What's up, Kind OG? What's up, Daniel? Um... 1181. We got some shit to talk about. No break as well. No breaks. Bro, this is some good shit, bro. I can't lie. Bro, these last two chapters, on top of the next chapter that's gonna come out, bro, this might be like the best like back to back to back mini stretch we've had in a while, bro. I'll be real. Maybe I'm letting recency bias get to me. But just off the top of my head, like, I can't remember the last time we've had 3 chapters back to back with no break. And it's been this sharp, this fire, this entertaining. With good art as well. Especially in this chapter, I think. I think the art in this chapter is really good. I don't want to say really good for older standards, because obviously older standards track back 1,000 chapters and there was a time in which this nigga was a beast. But I'm saying relative to like post time skip, bro, this is some of the best action one of the best action type chapters he's done. And that's not to say that it's like out of this world crazy in terms of his choreography or his presentation or his paneling or whatever, but it's still really good. It's not cluttered. I think that he allowed for the moments that needed the space to have the space that it needed to breathe. Like every single impactful action moment actually felt impactful because it was given the actual panel space it needed to give it that sort of impact. The only thing I probably would say is like the last spread with the Thorheim at the very end, but that's a little nitpicky given the rest of this chapter. And I can imagine as well this chapter being adapted into the anime with the faster pacing that Toei are going for now that it's a seasonal release, bro. Like this chapter when it's fully animated, bro, it's gonna be fire, bro. Like you can already see it. Hashirama murderer type beat. Let's not overdo it now. Let's not overdo it now. But I feel what you're saying though. I feel what you're saying. Loki above the old gen and current gen. Not after this chapter, it's not. Not because of this chapter, it's not. I'll say that much. I feel like I have a very different read of Loki's performance in this chapter than most people do, and it's for honestly like I can't understand why, but maybe I'm jumping the gun. Let me actually see what you guys are saying outside of just like hyping it up for hyping it up sakes. What's up Unknown? What's up Ringo? That's my final villain right there. Not a bad showing from Loki though. I think Arturini kind of hit the nail on the head in the way that you said it. Like this chapter was definitely okay. This chapter and the last chapter were a good display of IMU showing his stature as a final villain, right? He took out the trash pretty easily in the last chapter, and in this chapter where he's going up against someone that is really strong, a genuine top tier, he's actually dealing with that said top tier pretty comfortably. Like, there isn't really a shred of struggle from Emu's side of things in this chapter. Mind you, it is just base Loki, and now that like Loki's ramped it up into his own form at the end of this chapter and going into this hybrid form probably into the next chapter, the way that this has started off with base Loki, like, this is a very comfortable showing from Emu. Like, this is literally, yeah, like, you're pretty strong, I'm just stronger. that's kind of what Emu's performance kind of was. And even Loki kind of echoes the same sentiment. Like, Emu doesn't even appear as if he's even respecting him and the threat that he has posed. So let's actually go through this chapter, and I'll actually go through what you guys are saying alongside it, just to kind of get a better idea of what we all think in each moment of this actual fight. So I also kind of want to go into a little bit of Emu's character as well. I think let me just say this off the top. In this chapter, I've come away with it with two things. The first being that Emu is he's actually a very interesting character, and he's actually kind of moved me quite a bit in terms of his worldview and how it's going to contrast and kind of bounce off other worldviews that are going to be displayed from Loki right now, Luffy, and potentially Blackbeard later down the line. So that is something that I do enjoy, and obviously as well as just the power skin of it, given the fact that it is an action chapter, right? A kind of chap says, this is some dumb stuff. People think Emu is a final villain, but you ain't got the vision, bro. You ain't got the vision. I ain't got the vision, bro. Don't know what to say, bro. Okay, Zage. Zoro was ahead of Haki introduction. Chapter 259 talks about what's PUR? Uncorrupted passions. Might be I guess you're trying to say it might be a parallel to Omen, corrupted Haki. I guess we'll get into Haki / versus Maki a little later probably. Once I kind of get into like the Emu character side of things, but because I think those will kind of go all together. Okay, so let me just kind of give you my take on how I read this fight, and I don't really think this is really that nuanced at all. I think this is a very one-sided fight. Like, this is very one-sided. Even the moment that Loki even gets towards the end, it comes off the back of Emu just daydreaming, recalling what Joy Boy once said, or what he once said to Joy Boy, and Loki taking advantage of it. And we'll go through this entire chapter. All right. So chapter 1181, God and Devil. God and Devil, yeah? Cool. We get a flashback of what Harold's saying to Loki. That makes me the worst king in the history of Elbaf, so you must kill me and take the throne, Loki. Cool, so this is Loki, he's an Avenger. Trying to take revenge, trying to avenge Harold's death. Emu acting like the victim here, saying that the one who suffered the greatest setback was Mu. Loki charging with his conqueror's Haki. Uses Ragnar Izuchi. I can't lie, when the rules came out, because I can't lie, I am a spoiler reader, but I did not realize the squirrel's face on the hammer. I can't lie, the squirrel's face on the hammer kind of made me laugh. It was kind of funny, I'll be real. But yeah, here's the first action moment. And the first action moment, we have Loki bringing down lightning just like Thor would in Norse mythology. And he's also imbuing the attack with his own conqueror's Haki. And IMU just kind of blocks that pretty easily. Even Loki's kind of shocked. Are you kidding? He blocked that. He's quite surprised that he was able to do that. He questions what those black flames are, what powers IMU has, and IMU says that Omen is his military might. With Omen, he can not only use the flames to block things, use it defensively, but he can also turn into a giant as well. And that's what it seems. IMU says that Omen, or Maki, is a power that lurks within all things. And that's where the similarities to Haki has come from, not only just because of the way that the terminology is said in Japanese, but also the way that IMU describes it as a power that lurks within all things, similar to how Ray described Haki as a power that dwells within all people. So is very similar. But in this case with IMU and what he's talking about with Maki, I do think it can be IMU's unique power. It could be a power that other people could potentially have outside of their dependency of IMU. Similar to like Haki, for example, it could be its own internal spirit energy in One Piece. But it could also be like IMU's unique power, plus it has its own symbolic messaging, which it kind of goes into the purpose of this chapter and about questioning the difference between God and devil. So as IMU says that he's able to block Loki's strike again, or they're able to clash with each other. IMU takes the moment to kind of jump over Loki's attack, and with a conjured sword, he holds a empty hilt of a blade and then creates a blade using the Omen flames called Blade of Judgment Nemesis. Pierces right through Loki. And this is the first hit that IMU actually gets off on Loki. So he's already blocked one of his attacks. They had a clash. And then IMU already put in a pretty serious wound onto Loki already. You see Loki he drops completely to the ground. Loki's still able to get up. And IMU goes through his monologue, which I'll save for later, because I think that's kind of the most interesting part of the chapter as well. Cool. As Loki gets up, he tries to do another attack onto IMU, but IMU's already preparing another Omen attack, throws another flame ball at him. That nigga gets boomed. Loki got boomed straight on his body. Loki tries to keep his footing. Like he's slipping, he keeps his footing. And as he tries to counter IMU just waits to the last moment to get the fuck out of the way. And it's just a very, very one-sided display and a one-sided outcome from IMU. Like, pretty much in every single outcome, IMU just took full control of the fight. It wasn't really in Loki's favor at any point until the very end, where IMU's kind of daydreaming. And we already see, like, right, kind of quite quickly. So after he gets boomed, you see him coughing out blood. You see him wheezing. He's already showing signs of fatigue. As he sits down on the ground, as IMU is just levitating in the air, preaching at him. Loki gets back up. And as IMU tells Loki that domination is the only true bliss in the world, and as he recalls his conversation with Joy Boy, he gets lost in thought, gets caught by Loki. Loki even points it out, saying, "What's wrong? Got distracted? Then you don't respect me enough." And that's the only time that Loki was even able to get a hit in on IMU, send him flying, which props to him. despite the fact that it was an off-guard Imu. Roughed him up a little bit. And even in these circumstances, Imu still had enough time to conjure up another Omen Flame and block Loki's Thorheim. So, front to back, really and truly, this isn't really like a pitched fight at all. It's like Oda's making it very clear. Imu is definitely the one in favor right now. He's definitely got the upper hand. He's definitely the stronger of the two. He's kind of taking things quite casually up until Nidhogg's arrival. And the editor's note for this chapter was a fearless smile. So I think Oda actually managed to successfully make Loki look impressive in this chapter, just through his like tenacity, his endurance, his resilience, and also his actual raw power as well, being able to send Imu flying the way he did, and obviously the Thorheim which we've seen before. But whilst doing all that, made Imu look the clear superior, the one that is the clear alpha in this fight, the clear alpha in the arc, the clear threat in the arc, the one that is going to take quite a lot from the protagonist to actually overcome. He managed to balance both of them in the space of 18 pages, which props to him. He done it in a way in which it was quite compelling, the art was good, and yeah, like he actually told a pretty good narrative within this one chapter as well, questioning the difference between a god and a devil, introducing Imu's worldview of a trinity of domination, and just I think this is a very well packaged chapter. Probably this low-key might be my favorite chapter of the arc. I can't lie. Like the more I even think about it, the more it just becomes my favorite chapter of the arc. So that's kind of like the power scaling side of things, I guess, in terms of the action, what actually happened. It wasn't really that nuanced. I can't really say there's anything in particular that you had to really, really paid attention to notice certain things that are going on. It's quite black and white. It's pretty clear what Oda is going for with these two. But hey, then again, this is still base Loki, and Loki can still up the ante into his hybrid form later on as well, trying to make the fight a little closer. Joy Boy might have been working with the feds. I guess we'll get into the Joy Boy shit later. This chapter shows why Loki is stronger than rocks. Does it really though? I say that whilst also actually thinking that Loki is stronger than rocks. I actually do agree with that, but I don't know if this chapter really shows that per se. Not really sure about that. To be fair though, like Rox was quite helpless against Saturn Imu. Couldn't damage him, couldn't do anything like that, but Loki at least can press Imu once he has like a slight advantage in the battle, so that is still saying something. Zage, does this chapter make Imu a swordsman in your opinion? No. I don't think Imu's a swordsman. I hate that like chapters like these bring forth conversations like that when there's so much to talk about outside of like this like this just slop. It's just slop, bro. It's just One Piece slop conversations that really and truly just like have no real merit at all. But just to entertain it for a little bit, I think Imu's powers is just that versatile. He's created a plethora of weapons at this point. When he was first introduced through Gonko, he pulled out a shotgun, he pulled out a trident, he pulled out a Naginata now, which seems like his base weapon. I don't know if that's a conjured weapon. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. This blade is like the hilt and the actual hilt of the blade had no blade. The blade part is just the omen part of it. So no, I don't think he's a swordsman. I just think he just uses a bunch of weapons. And yeah, that's really about it. It's a very strong piercing attack, but that's about it really. If anything was his base weapon, it would probably be the Naginata that he pulled up with initially, and he used it as well when he was swinging around that that omen fireball before he launched it at Loki and just boomed him. So maybe that's his primary weapon, but he could just conjure up other weapons. As for it being a black blade, it's pretty clear now that people can look at the chapter for themselves. That shit is not a black blade. The flames are just black. It's just a black motif, I guess. All his weapons are black. Domi Reversi turns people from white to black. That's the whole thing with Imu. Gonko, when he took over Gonko's body and summoned the trident, it was a black trident. Nobody was saying that's it as a black blade, so it's the same thing. I just think people like Worst Gen, they're just like they farm, engagement bait and like just farm slop convos, bait people into discussing certain things that they know is going to get a rile out of certain fan bases. And look, I don't want to put all the responsibility onto him, because I think some people should take accountability of how they kind of respond to some of the leaks that these spoiler providers are given. But you put too much power in their hands when you take what they say as face value and treat them as some sort of authority, whether you acknowledge it as the case or not, whether you realize that's what you're doing or not. And that's genuinely how I think about it. But hey, good news is yo, Street saying that Redon is on the yo, this guy is getting ducked down by the police here. Worst Gen might be next. So, I don't know, bro. We might be put out of our misery, bro. We might be put out of the misery of gift hints and bullshit spoilers from those two, because holy, bro. Anyway. Loki put some fear into Emu's face at the end, not gonna lie. The editor's note literally said a fearless smile. Like, I know I'm reading off the officials, but everyone can go on the TCB. The editor's note says that he showed a fearless smile. This guy, Emu, does not give a fuck. This guy was just, like, shocked. That's it. He had a moment of shock as he saw Nidhogg. And then when Loki fired the Thorheim, he seemed glad that Nidhogg has returned. So I don't really take it as some sort of fear, as some sort of worry, really and truly. Like, let's not announce a fear that I see from Emu. I don't know where people are getting this fear from. I feel like, and this is what I was saying, last week about how people discuss Loki is really going to influence how I discuss Loki. Because if people are disingenuous about what we're seeing, in chapters like these, he might turn into Sabo. And the last thing I want Loki to be is Sabo. So please, don't push my buttons. Don't push my buttons. If you unironically think that Loki, like, had some sort of dominant performance in this chapter, you're just greatly mistaken. Emu's daydreaming about Joy Boy and tanking Loki's attacks casually and smiling. I don't think he actually tanked that with his actual body. I think he used the Omen Flame, because you see him. This is kind of what I was referring to earlier when I said that the last double page spread, low key, this page could have been two. Like, this could have been two separate spreads. Low key, like this, the first half of it could have been its own spread. These bottom panels where you see, Emu dug against the mountain. This mini panel of Nidhogg really and truly should have been a bigger panel, in my opinion. But yeah, you see Emu do the hand sign for Omen. I think he blocked it with the Omen. I don't really think he tanked that with his physicals. And I can't lie, the fact that Emu is actually going out of his way to block certain attacks, rather than take them with his own body, it could imply one of two things. A, that he knows that Loki's Conqueror's Haki can actually damage him. Or B, he actually doesn't have the regen in his real form. He can assign regenerative abilities to other people, but he might not have those regenerative abilities himself. But that's to be seen. That's yet to be seen. I lean towards A, but I am open to the second possibility as well, that Emu might actually not have regen abilities in his real form, just given the fact that he's been openly taking these attacks, and especially considering the fact that one of the attacks he outright blocked is a base Loki like Ragnar attack, and I don't think this Ragnar attack is stronger than like Zebek's Pandemonium attack. I don't know if it's stronger than Whitebeard's Haku attack or Roger's Divine Departure. I'm not really too sure about that. And given the fact that Emu was able to take them simultaneously, like all 6 of those attacks simultaneously on regen, whereas here he's he's responding to a single attack from a base Loki, and he's open to blocking it rather than take it with his own body, it might suggest that he might not have regenerative abilities in his actual form. But who knows? That's to be seen. We will see later on as the fight develops. Yo, Zage, how you feel about Welsh and hyping up the Black Blade thing? I kind of covered that already. But yeah, good riddance. He might be gone for a while. Good riddance. Good fucking riddance. That's a dope panel with Emu blocking the hammer. Reminds me of some Soul Eater stuff, especially with Emu's design. Nah, I feel it. I think this is the best this is definitely the best double page spread in the chapter. Probably one of the better ones in the arc as well. Maybe the only ones that are better is like the 1v, the Emu taking the 6 attacks from the legends. That might have been like a more hype spread, but like artistically, I actually fuck with this double page spread. It's probably up there for me. Looking back, obviously the Harley double page spread is definitely probably the best in the arc. Probably one of the best in the whole fucking story, really and truly. But that being said, in terms of action spreads, yeah, this one is pretty good. Even though there isn't that much actually going on, it's just Loki doing an attack and Imu blocking it. It's just the scale, you actually feel it. You actually do feel it, so that is much appreciated. Definitely. Y'all notice Loki enduring better attacks than Kaido? Crazy. I don't know. I mean, look, Imu is definitely stronger than Kaido, but are these individual attacks stronger than like an overcon gun from a Gear 4 Luffy? Is it stronger than that the star gun that Gear 5 did when he hit Kaido in the face? Is it stronger than those individual attacks? I'm not really sure. I don't know. Just because there are attacks from a stronger character doesn't necessarily mean that every single one of those attacks are going to be stronger than every single one of Kaido's, or every single one of the attacks that Kaido got hit by, especially from Luffy towards the end of the battle when he's approaching Kaido's level, going into his like Gear 4 and then Gear 5 and actually reaching his level as well. So I'm not really sure. Like if you're saying that like Loki's enduring better attacks, I mean, what attacks in particular would you say that, for example, the Nemesis stab is definitively stronger than from Luffy's arsenal? Not too sure. Like it's definitely a very lethal attack given the fact that, like, you know, he's stabbing him right through his chest. Fair enough. It's definitely very lethal. This explosive attack right here, cool, is an explosion, but just because it's explosive by nature doesn't necessarily mean it'll be stronger than like a Luffy punch, depending on the technique that he's using. But yeah, it's definitely, I can say at this stage it's probably, it could be likely that it's going to be stronger than most of the attacks that we have seen up until this point. But in terms of like Kaido and Luffy's upper end attacks, I don't know if these opening moves from Imu, where he's quite relaxed, quite casual, is already going to be eclipsing some of Luffy's best stuff, especially when we're going to see Luffy fight Imu right. He's going to fight him right after this. We're going to see Luffy deal with the exact same attacks that are putting Loki on the ground, or base Loki on the ground. So Loki's Ragnar Izuchi is definitely above Zebek, Whitebeard, Roger, etc.'s attacks individually. I mean, be that as it may, even if it is above them individually, I don't know if it's above them altogether. And my point more so is that Imu took the combined attacks of all of them. Regened it was pretty good, whereas this singular attack from base Loki prompted Imu to like block it with his Omen and didn't attempt to block it with his own body and take advantage of his regenerative abilities, which he might not even have in his human form. He might not have it. So that's kind of the main thing. The main thing I was going for. What's up, Wallace, bro? I can't join because I'm busy today, but Loki is strong as hell, bro. Also, I like how strong Imu looks. I hate the idea that Imu can just low diff all top tiers together. when you say that you hate the idea that Eiichiro can just low diff all top tiers together, like, are you acknowledging that is the case, that he has or can do that, and you just don't like the fact that he can? Or I'm not too sure exactly where you're going with it. A Eiichiro who's 1 or 2 tiers above the top tiers to me is better and allows us to avoid the usual crazy upscale and bullshit mangakas have to do in order to get their MCs there. I can understand how like very, very crazy power progression might come across off-putting sometimes when very strong characters have been established as part of a group that represent the ceiling of a world. But I think Eiichiro, by design, just conceptually is supposed to stand above all. That is kind of supposed to be the point. So the fact that Eiichiro is able to reign above all these guys, not only in position but also in terms of strength, is quite fitting with what he is supposed to be. If he was just kind of someone that was in and around the pact, it wouldn't necessarily be as, I don't know, I don't think it would be as impactful, in my opinion. Especially if Eiichiro is getting introduced earlier in the story to when he is supposed to be defeated, because I don't think most people actually think Eiichiro is going to go down in this arc, like, permanently. So if this is supposed to be the initial display of Eiichiro's strength, and obviously his full power is going to be displayed later on, where Luffy actually has all that final developments up until him becoming the Pirate King, and that is the version of Luffy that is going to be fighting Eiichiro in the end, I think that is totally fine. I think it's totally fine. Like, Eiichiro just showcasing to top tiers that the world is bigger than they thought, and they're only at the top of the world that he created. They're top tiers in a world he created. I think Eiichiro being that much stronger than them, it's a very impactful way of just echoing that. Personally, I don't really have an opinion, a problem with that, to be fair. If he has regen, why bother blocking Sanji's attack? He doesn't have it. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's a good point. That's what I'm saying. The fact that he is blocking, it kind of reminds me a bit about how King treated Zoro after Zoro started using King of Hell. Like, before King of Hell, King was very open to just blocking every single one of his attacks with his flames on, because he was just nigh invincible with his durability. But then as soon as King understood the threat that Zoro represented, even with his flame on, he didn't even risk just taking the attacks head on anymore. And it kind of suggested, and I know this is a bit of a debatable subject, but walk with me here, it kind of suggested that Zoro's advanced Conqueror's Haki attacks would be a threat to King's durability. So yeah, if someone like Sanji is forcing Eiichiro to block rather than just take things with his actual body like he's Kaido, and take advantage of his physical defenses or take advantage of his regenerative capabilities, it kind of suggests that he might not have those abilities. He might not have it. So we'll see. Maybe he does and he just decided to block. Like, I think both can still be true. It's still early stages, so I don't wanna like pin something down as definitively. I think that would be a little bit careless. Oral says that I think this chapter for me confirms that Blackbeard is the final villain. Eiichiro is not doing as well as I thought he would. Not that he's not putting belt to ass, but Loki has a hybrid form and there's still Luffy. Fair enough. I think if you believe that like Eiichir's stock as being the final villain might be diminished a little bit, given the fact that he will be given some sort of He will show some sort of struggle in the front of Loki and Luffy. As early in the final saga as we are, I can kind of understand that, but I think that's a little bit too predictive, because IMU's showcase so far has been, he is very, very clearly the one in control. He's not really showing signs of struggle, and the only time he the only time Loki got a strike on him is when he was already distracted and was daydreaming about Joy Boy. So I can kind of understand that. Look, there is more to this battle that is to come. You're right. Loki is probably going to debut the hybrid form against IMU. Luffy's still going to be there. But maybe the fact that it's also going to be a 2v1 against IMU is going to be how Oda is willing to show a little bit of a sense of struggle from IMU's side of things, where he would otherwise not do that if it was going to be two separate 1v1s. So I guess we'll see how it plays out, but I think irrespective of the struggle that IMU faces against Loki and Luffy, to me personally, I don't really think it changes his stock as the final villain, in my opinion, because I think there can be other caveats to IMU's strength here. Like the fact that he came into this, he announced himself into Elbaf, landed on Elbaf, already nerfed. It seems like he can't be on Elbaf for a long time. He was bleeding out of his mouth just getting there. He seemed like he was even in pain transforming into his actual real form, and doing that outside of the Holy Land. So once that sort of context is kind of fleshed out for us, it can give us a better perspective on why his performance might not have been as outstanding as we would expect it to be of a final villain at this point in the final saga. And it could just be the case that when we see IMU again in action later on, he's going to be stronger. Maybe he has his own power-ups. Maybe he's not even as strong as he was 800 years ago. He returns back to his prime. There could be multiple things that allows IMU to retain his sense of superiority over his opponents later on without kind of sabotaging his position, just because Oda wants to give Loki and Luffy a sense of struggle, or give IMU a sense of struggle against Luffy and Loki, just for entertainment purposes and to make the actual battles a bit exciting. So that's what I'm saying. It's a little bit too predictive at this stage, but I can understand why you would think that. But me personally, I'm not there. So Ringo says Gorosei are above Shamrock in rank and Delphi Pact, but the red hair heritage is strong. He has greater potential. I can agree with that for maybe a couple of the Gorosei, mainly like Saturn and Jupiter, but Mars, Walkyrie and Nusjuro, and especially Walkyrie and Nusjuro, I don't think Shamrock will be stronger than those two in particular, as well as Garland as well. So Mars is a little bit of a maybe, could be not. Walkyrie and Nusjuro, I have a lot more confidence in them being stronger than Shamrock, and obviously Garland as well. So, but yeah, to some extent the red hair tax is real. To some extent it is. Arto says that Loki only got hit in because IMU was distracted. Harold allowed Loki to get a free shot on Loki. The only thing Loki has above Zoro or Sanji is his durability. Dude is overrated as fuck. I can't lie, Arto, bro. I be seeing what you be saying on Twitter, bro. You be bugging on Twitter, bro. When it comes to Loki, bro, you have such a low opinion of Loki. I actually don't understand it. I don't understand it, bro. But Loki is definitely not a Zoro or Sanji victim. He's definitely not. Sorry to say. Oda said the series is over when the One Piece is found, so I don't know if Pirate King Luffy gonna be fighting Emu, but my opinion though. Yeah, when I was saying Pirate King Luffy, I just meant like a Luffy towards the end of his journey in terms of his progression of strength. That's kind of what I meant. Whether that be Pirate King or not, it doesn't really matter. That would still be Pirate King, like Luffy's Pirate King level. New Pirate King level, you know. That's about it, really. Artorian says a final villain should be set apart by quite the margin from everyone in a battle shonen, in my opinion. I kind of agree. I do prefer that. It just kind of depends how it ultimately is executed, because, like, for example, something like Bleach, I think like Yuhaba is a very nice example of that. Yuhaba, especially when he absorbed the Soul King, you know, the what's it called? I'm bugging. When he took back his own powers from the Quincy's, whatever that move was called, I forgot what that moment was called. Anyway, like stuff like that, like Yuhaba towards the end, that sense of superiority over everyone else, it always creates good stakes, especially towards the end. I think towards the end of a battle shonen, like the final villain has the writers always have more leeway and more leverage and more flexibility in making their final villain super strong, because they know there's going to be nothing above that anyway. So it always is. For me, I love that sense of conflict. I like that sense of despair. It's always something engaging. I think Imu doing that so early in the final saga is actually a good wake up call to some of these guys, to show them that the world is bigger than what they thought. And yeah, I mean the comeback is going to be just as satisfying when we see it at the end of the story. So I kind of do agree. Why has Oda not shown how the Straw Hat took care of the Seraphim, by the way? Is it going to be forever off screen? Are you talking about when they put them in the bubbles? I don't know, bro. I don't know. Yeah, they put them in the bubbles. How they put them in the bubbles in Egghead, that was off screen. I don't know. It is what it is. On Regent matter, do you think that everyone needs to have the level of Haki to overcome it singularly, or the Hakis of the attacks add up? I think it is basically how Gaban said it, but I do think that your Haki has to be at a certain level to even like wound them meaningfully to begin with. Like if you can't meaningfully like actually wound someone with your Conqueror's Haki, then it will just take it will take a lot to actually do those consecutive hits to ultimately incapacitate them. That's the struggle that Gaban and Shanks had against Holy Knight Harold. Yes, they can damage him. Yes, they can slow down his regeneration. But Harold as a conqueror, on top of the fact that he has a covenant that gives him regen, is just so strong that even though that they're slowing down his regen, they're not slowing it down enough, and their attacks aren't potent enough for Harold to be brought down to a state of incapacitation. So yeah, it's a bit of both. Like your level of Haki has to be at a certain point depending on the opponent, and then it's just the pile-on effect that ultimately gets to the point where that regen user will just be knocked out clean. But then obviously if that regen user is pretty weak, like for example, let's say Summers, and we saw old Gaban how he fought Summers, Gaban's Haki was just strong enough to kind of just chop up one of his arms, and it's kind of like gone for like a whole chapter's worth. Like for like a decent amount of time. It's not going to regrow back that quickly. And then Gaban's Haki in comparison to Summers is is just that strong and is potent enough that it wouldn't take a lot of attacks in consecutive in succession to actually knock him out if he had the flexibility to do that. But we know what happened. Colin got captured, and then his choices were limited. So there's that. Zage, are you really gonna be alright with Luffy Gear 5 hurting his hand punching Walkery going to perform better than Loki against IMU? I'll be honest, bro, like Egghead was just bullshit, bro. Yo, Egghead was just some bullshit. Like the fact that we now know that all it took was Conqueror's Haki to slow down the regeneration of these Covenant users. All it has done is people theorize about why the Abyssal Covenant and the Gorosei's Covenant is a bit more unique, and that advanced Conqueror's Haki alone isn't enough to actually produce those results. But instead, it could just be the fact that Luffy thought, for whatever reason, his physical attacks weren't doing anything, and he didn't understand, or he didn't even bother trying using Conqueror's Haki against them, because to him, adding a power to an attack that to him only just makes the attack physically stronger, he thought it probably wouldn't counter the hacks. Call it stupid rationale, call it some plot-induced stupidity, but I can't lie, bro. I'm not convinced that Luffy used Conqueror's Haki against the Gorosei and Egghead. I'm 100% not convinced of that. And as it pertains to Walkery, I'll be honest, bro, it's to the point where I'm entertaining the idea of Luffy not even using Ryo against Walkery. I don't think Walkery's skin is so durable to the fact that he's able to withstand, or like he's able to cancel out durability negating attacks that should bypass durability. What happened to Luffy just extending his Haki through someone's defenses and attacking them from within? I didn't see that with Walkery. I'll be real, bro. Well, Gaban said that Conqueror's users with regen are a lot harder to put down. I mean, you say that, but even with Shanks and Gaban, they were still able to slow down Harold's regeneration. This guy Luffy could not do that against Saturn. He used a Dawn Gatling against Saturn, punched holes in him, and Saturn just kind of got back up, and his regen speed wasn't really presented to be any different. He didn't suffer any sort of pain. He just kind of got back up like it was normal. It was no different than when Kuma punched Saturn, tore off his arm and parts of his torso, and he kind of just regen that shit normally. We know that Conqueror's Haki has the effect of inflicting pain. They actually feel the attacks they're hit by, on top of the fact that their regen slows down. If you go back to any of those interactions where Luffy attacks or actually damages a Gorosei, quote unquote, like punches holes in them, that effect or that sort of, it's not portrayed in that sort of way. So yes, even if Saturn has Conqueror's Haki, his Conqueror's Haki is not stronger than Holy Knight Harold's. His Covenant might be better than Holy Knight Harold's, fair enough. But as far as we know, we don't know if the regeneration efficacy is that different between the Abyssal and the Depths Covenant. We don't know that. We can assume that to be the case, or maybe that the Abyssal Covenant is the exact same as the Depths Covenant, just with an extra ability on top of it. It could just be that. We don't know. But the fact that Shanks and Gaban's Haki was at the very least able to inflict pain on a God Knight Harold, and Luffy couldn't do that against Saturn, to me, I'm not convinced that Luffy even used Conqueror's Haki in the first place. I'll be so real. I'm just not convinced of it. Gabon literally said that the version of Harold would be unstoppable, plus Emu didn't give a fuck about Whitebeard and Roger, but was more concerned with Harold. I mean, the context is important there. He was surprised that anyone could beat Harold, and he was questioning what is within Elbaf, where Harold was sent to. So why would I mean, this is post Roger's death anyway, so that's besides the point. But Whitebeard, why would he expect Whitebeard to be there? Is also Harold was a servant of Emu. He was under Emu's control, so it's also the fact of Harold, who was a servant to Emu or controlled by Emu, and it was as strong as what he was stopped within Elbaf, and he thought that to be something crazy. Yes, Gabon said that he pictured that world in that battle. If Harold was able to escape, that he would destroy the world. Fair enough, like yeah, he couldn't damage it, but I don't think that's a knock against someone like a Whitebeard personally. So you think this version of Luffy is going to be better than Egghead, since Egghead Luffy was on some plot sake? Yeah, 100%. 100%. Especially, like, at the very least, like, going into these battles, or going into this battle against Emu, I don't think Luffy is any different than what he was in Egghead or at the end of Wano. Maybe as the fight develops, he's going to be pushed into maybe using some new techniques of Gear 5, but in terms of his overall power level, I don't expect it to be something super different. It's not really implied as if Luffy has grown greatly. Yes, he has island to island experiences and battles, but the reason why the Straw Hats grew stronger island to island is because they had these tough battles that forced them to grow. But Egghead did not give him any tough battles that forced Luffy to grow. Call this being a reductionist, but he basically played cat and mouse with Kizaru, and he was for the most part, he was kind of playing around with the Gorosei. Like, yes, he couldn't damage them, or he couldn't really press them for real, but every interaction he had with the Gorosei, like, he was okay. He just couldn't ultimately damage them. And he wasn't necessarily pushed to a point in which he was forced to have some sort of evolution. So I don't think Luffy, in terms of his overall power, is any different to what he was in Egghead. I just think he was just restricted in Egghead for plot reasons, and that's really about it. Unless it's like explicitly shown that the Abyssal Covenant offers a level of regeneration that can't be normally countered with just Conqueror's Coating as it is, or it requires a certain usage of its Conqueror's Coating or something. I don't know, bro. Like, it would have to be something that is very distinct from users of the Depths Covenant and how they've been dealt with Conqueror's Haki, for me to believe, okay, maybe Luffy used it against Gorosei and Egghead, and his Conqueror's Haki still couldn't work because of these factors. But if the Gorosei use the same abilities as those with the Depths Covenant, the regeneration is the same. Maybe it's just they've got stronger defenses, maybe because of their Conqueror's Haki, who knows. But irrespective of that, like, the counter being Conqueror's Haki, it just seems as if what Gabon was talking about, as when he was trying to say that they're not immortal, they're not truly immortal, and that be mindful of the way that you use Conqueror's Haki, he was just saying use Conqueror's Coating. And that's basically what he said to Shanks. The answer that he was trying to guide Luffy to before the flashback started is the answer that he said to Shanks in the Harold fight. I don't think it's going to be this complex thing where the Abyssal Covenant offers some sort of unique sense of regeneration that Luffy can't ordinarily overcome using his Conqueror's Coating that is already at a high level. So I just don't believe that to be the case. Oral says, I'd like to see more of Luffy pulling shit out of his Hagoromo cloud to maybe try and match Emu's versatility somewhat. At least then it's believable when they say Gear 5 has Toon Force. I think we will see some shit like that, to be fair. I think we will. Plazema in the chat says, bro, Luffy is so good with his Haki. He spread his conquerors over 4 island-sized fist while also applying Ryo onto it to not make contact with Kaido. No fucking way he's using that shit again. Bro, that's what I'm saying, bro. Like, I can't look at what Luffy done in Wano and then say he done the same shit in again. I just don't believe it. They don't look the same, don't have the same effects. It's not really portrayed the same. The answer Gaban gives doesn't lead me to believe it's the same. It's just not, bro. I'm not moved by it. Anyway, I do want to kind of, I do want to give some time to like the actual narrative side of this chapter. I actually think in this chapter we kind of got a good look into Emu's worldview. What he says in this chapter is quite interesting about the Trinity of Domination or Dominion, depending on the translation. And I even posted a thread on Twitter about this because it's old news to everyone at this point that like Doflamingo and Emu are like parallel each other to some respect, and there are clear comparisons between the two of them. But when you actually like deep what Emu is actually saying about his worldview, it's a lot more beat for beat than you may actually realize. So I actually want to kind of read out exactly what he says and then kind of just give my thoughts on it, because I do think that it could actually lead into some clues as to what actually occurred in the Void Century War, the disagreement he actually had with Joy Boy, and the ideological battle that actually resulted into the world sinking and the world resulting into what it is today. So what he says to Loki is that it is the nature of man to crave strength. However, when power so lusted after is too easily gained, it essentially leads to corruption. And corruption is represented by the Domi Reversi. How they've been corrupted, switched from white to black. Choosing servitude out of self-interest is represented by the covenants. That's essentially what Harold did. His interest in actually taking that covenant in the first place was his hopes of making Elbaf join the fold of the world and be a member nation so that it can be closer to humanity and closer to humans and pursue the noble goals that he had. It led to him forming a covenant with Emu and consequentially ended up submitting his will and his freedom to Emu. Then he says, and the envy that seeks to achieve one's goals, the power of Omen. And we know Omen is Maki, demonic, like a demonic spirit. So it leads to having greater power. Corruption, covenants, and the power of Omen, these three form the Trinity, which is what we call domination. And Emu believes that domination is the only true bliss in this world. So essentially, long story short, essentially what Emu is saying is that he believes that a world that is a world that is forced into submission through one person's ideals or one person's visions is better for the greater good. He's essentially saying that the way that humans operate, it tends to resolve around domination anyway, whether through abuse, submission, or ambition. And if we break down each of the three forms of what he calls domination, you can understand why he thinks what he thinks. We've seen plenty of characters try to attain some sort of strength. We've seen characters that have fell into corruption. If someone gets power without effort or struggle, they may not value it they might not value it properly and become morally compromised. The covenant is essentially trading your own agency, your own freedom, for some sort of greater benefit or for some sort of self-interest, some sort of selfish ideal. And IMU believes that people naturally seek out dark forms of power through just negative impulses or negative emotions, whether it be jealousy, resentment, hatred, things like that, and it all culminates into that. And I wanna bring up this the actual tweet that I made just before I actually went on to stream, because it kind of summarizes exactly what I was saying. And I kind of want to kind of use this as a guideline so that my thoughts are concise and coherent. So, okay, here we go. So I want to use the Dressrosa arc as a way to kind of visualize what IMU's worldview actually is in practice. Because, okay, we can understand the words that he's saying, but how does it look like? He's given us examples through characters in the Elbaf arc, whether it be the Domi Reverses, or Harold taking the Covenant, or IMU using his own power of the Omen. But how does it look from a larger perspective? So this is what I say, right? Doflamingo, his epithet is the heavenly demon, and even in this chapter, IMU questions what the difference is between God and the devil. What is the difference? Right? And that's kind of like the whole message of this chapter. So IMU has made his worldview clear with this idea of a trinity of domination, and there's no better example of that worldview in practice than Dressrosa, the land of love, passion, and toys. Dressrosa, it isn't any different to most arcs where society is divided into winners and losers. Funnily enough, another arc that's very similar to this and that is very reminiscent to Luffy's own experiences is Goa Kingdom. He actually compares the divide of Dressrosa to Goa Kingdom, with obviously where the nobles live and where the scrapyards are. So Dressrosa isn't any different to most arcs where society is divided into winners and losers. The winners are apparent and happy, and the losers are swept under the rug, which creates a false sense of bliss in the country. Dressrosa is an island of love, passion and toys. It's an island where people seem happy all the time. Everything is super fun. But it only looks super fun because the people that are suffering and the people that are oppressed are swept under the rug and are kind of pushed out of the corners of people's memories quite literally, or are just pushed into the dark depths of the society itself. Now let's go through to the actual steps of the Trinity of Domination. Corruption. Doflamingo, he manipulates King Riku into killing his own people so he could upstage him as a hero. To the people, Riku has seemingly gone mad, and Doflamingo's violence wins over the hearts as a savior. He basically took the easy way out. When power so lusted after is too easily gained, it can lead to corruption. Seems beat for beat. Doflamingo didn't really do it through his own merits. He tricked Riku into saying, look, I'll buy the country from you. You act as an upstanding king. You try to gather the money from the people. It will be a bloodless takeover. You'll keep your integrity and your reputation as is, and I'll take the throne. But that was just his way of manipulating Riku into actually becoming the actual enemy of the people, and him becoming like a fake hero. That's the corruption side of things. The covenant side of things. Let's look at what IMU says. Choosing servitude out of self-interest. Who in the people of Dressrosa seem like they're essentially submitted to Doflamingo's puppeteering and his influence through their own self-benefit. You have one, his own officers, Treble, Diamante, Pika, the Dofi family in general. They put Doflamingo on this pedestal because he's a conqueror, he has the qualities of a king, things of that nature, and they serve him for their own power and for their own liberties. Then you have the people in the underworld that profit of war from Doflamingo selling these weapons to different countries. The wars that continue because Doflamingo sells weapons to both sides to make a profit. The people in the underworld make a profit from Doflamingo's framework, the system that he created in the underworld. And then you have Viola. Viola, or Violet, as she changed her name to when she became part of Doflamingo's family, she submitted herself, or she was forced to submit herself to Dofi to protect Riku. So whether it be because of a noble reason like Viola, or whether it be out of ignorance like the citizens of Dressrosa that just accept their comfort and they take their happiness as it is, or if it be their own malicious reasons like, for example, the Dofi family and the underworld, all of these guys have submitted themselves out of self-interest and have taken that symbolical covenant. And we actually have a quite literal covenant in Dressrosa, not necessarily out of self-interest or out of some sort of forced quote-unquote choice, but you have Sugar. Sugar's hobby fruit literally parallels Imu's forced control with its contracts. When Imu was forcing Harold to do something he didn't want to do through the covenant, that is very similar to what Sugar does. Sugar turns people into toys and she places a contract on them. That contract is that they shouldn't harm humans and they shouldn't harm the family, and they shouldn't disobey the family's orders. Very similar to Imu. Imu gives people regeneration, greater strength, but in turn, they're fully obedient to Imu. The same way that Sugar's Devil Fruit ability gives Doflamingo full control over the toys. This allows Dofi to not only force their wills to be controlled, but also their memories to go, and with their memories gone, it allows the citizens to experience this fake sense of bliss, which is this bliss that Imu calls a world of domination. He's dominated the world of the country of Dressrosa through these means. The toys are then obviously forced into hard labor, obviously for the betterment of the winners. And now you have the power side of things, or Omen. Doflamingo's pursuit of power is driven by his hatred of not only the celestial dragons, but also just the ordinary people themselves. He envied the status that he lost as a dragon. He doesn't even consider himself human. He's rejected by the celestial dragons, but envies the status that he lost when he was a celestial dragon. He envied it. And that envy, that resentment, that hatred allowed Doflamingo to gain the powers that he did, to not only become the world's puppet master, but to be as strong as he is. That was his driving force. Even the way that Doflamingo considers humans, the way he thinks of humans, he believes they're just inherently vicious, they're inherently cruel, they're inherently brutal, that they all have the propensity of barbarity. They all have the potential to be vicious, scum, evil people. And he's only saying this out of experience. IMU believes that Omen is supposedly a power that dwells in all things. And if Maki is genuinely just the inverse of Haki, and it actually is an internal spiritual energy that people can harness, but just negative emotion, if it really is that, then that would just be the manifestation of kind of what Doflamingo believes humans to be anyway. Dressrosa's happy and fun society was said to be a land full of contradictions, and it was reigned by a man with a contradictory epithet. Doflamingo's epithet is Heavenly Demon. What is the difference between a god and a devil? What is the difference? That's what IMU questions. And Doflamingo's epithet represents both ideas, heavenly and demon. IMU also embodies that contradiction and blurs the lines between God and the devil. He blurs the lines on it. And you know, when I was looking at this as well, it makes me think, because what Corazon said to Law about the stories that the kids in Marijawa will be given when they're misbehaving is that the D will come after you. And the whole idea is that the D are the devils and the celestial dragons are the gods, and that the people of the D are the natural enemy of the gods. But if you let IMU tell it, God, devil, what is the difference? There is no difference. To him, the people of the D and his own people or his side, those labels might be completely meaningless. So in Dressrosa, and I didn't really want to go into too much depth in this because one, it's just a lot to get into, and two, I didn't really want to get into too much like connections between Dressrosa and Elbaf. But basically in the Dressrosa arc, the main three who challenged Doflamingo's worldview were King Riku, who's obviously the noble king. He wants to do things the right way. He basically bowed down to his own people to even try to get them to give up money so he could protect them, and begged the people to not even ask questions as to why he's even doing what he's doing. Just as a noble king. You have Fujitora, who is the blind bystander, someone that works for the world government but disagrees with how the world government portray themselves. And then you have Luffy, who is the liberator. Now, I'm not trying to draw a parallel between Loki and Fujitora, because obviously the arcs, the contexts are completely different. But Harold and King Riku are very similar. They're very similar in that regard. Harold, you could say he was naive. He didn't know better, or maybe he did know better, and look, his ambition to make an Elbaf a better place, it blinded him to being too submissive to a force that really and truly he should have known would have used him in that particular way. But Harold was the wise king He got manipulated just like Riku did. He was doing it out of noble causes. Loki is the Avenger. It's pretty clear. We're seeing this in this chapter. And Luffy's the Liberator. So I say that all to say that even though Dofi and IMU parallel each other, it's old news. Dressrosa being a microcosm of the world is old news. We all know this. It's pretty clear at this point. But the fact that IMU's worldview can be quite clearly visualized through the Dressrosa arc and maybe other arcs as well. Dressrosa is just the first thing that came to mind, which is the only reason why I'm talking about it in as much depth as I am. But it could give us some clues or some sort of indication on Imu's ascension in the Void Century, how he actually differed in terms of his ideology in comparison to Joy Boy, what they disagreed on, why they disagreed over it, what Davy Jones's role in all of that was, because maybe he was inspired by Davy Jones's tyrannical rule, but he didn't like the way he was doing things and he wanted things to be in his own image. Who knows? The fact that he says to Rox that my world isn't complete, he doesn't believe that the world is a complete bliss yet. It's not in this his twisted version of a paradise or a utopia yet, and there are still building blocks. He needs to get rid of the people of D that are causing a storm for that world to be complete. Get rid of every single threat so that ignorant can stay ignorant and the people that can enjoy the fruits properly. Whatever. But it gives us some sort of visualization as to what Imu is specifically talking about. And I can't lie, it made me appreciate the Dressrosa arc a lot more. Because when I was going back to actually find these chapters, I already had Dressrosa in a high opinion, but I was like, damn, like this guy Oda Loki was kind of cooking. He was actually kind of cooking in this. So yeah, like I fucked with this chapter. Honestly, like the action was already good enough, but just to have this clarity in terms of Imu's worldview just being said in the way it was, and I can actually visualize it through past things in the story. It elevated this chapter for me. It probably is my favorite chapter of the arc so far. Probably is, I can't lie. Never thought about Domireverse in the Parasite strings. It's very similar. It's very similar. And you know what's also similar as well? You know what is a good connection that you made, right? Or it's a good thing that you pointed out. Because in the same way that the Domireverse didn't work on Gear 5 Luffy, is the same way that Luffy was ultimately able to break out of the Parasite string, turning into Gear 4. He just physically rejects that submission from Doflamingo. He physically rejects it. Obviously, the mechanism to the Imu thing, we don't really know how it works in contrast to Gear 5, but the messaging is still quite loud. You see what I mean? I honestly like when you pull a Morge. Wouldn't be surprised if he makes a similar video. Maybe he has in his review. I don't know. Maybe he will. But I know Dofi and Imu are the three antagonists with god complexes. Yeah, so maybe there is some sort of there are some sort of parallels that we can see from what Imu's worldview is in Skypiea as well. But to be honest, the connection didn't come as fast in my head as the Dressrosa connections did. I think the Dressrosa connections are just like beat for beat, bar for bar. It's just Bish Bash Bosh is the same shit. Hold on, let me quickly check the Cavs game real quick. I know the playoffs is on right now. One sec. Damn. D-Mitch having a stinker. Anyway. Anyway. But yeah. Even like when I look at like the end of Dressrosa as well, because we can go to Dressrosa and just kind of see certain parts of it. 7, let me see. 83. So Dopey says, within 30 minutes, the dead will begin to mount somewhere or another. After 40 minutes, you'll be able to hear the screams from here. By the 50-minute mark, the land will be as red as a flattened tomato. And an hour from now, there will be no more voices. While I'm sure the fate of Dressrosa means nothing to you, the dead will curse you as they leave the mortal coil. So he's trying to paint Luffy as the bad guy the same way that he painted Rico as the bad guy. If only you hadn't come here, Dressrosa would still have been at peace. He calls Dressrosa peace. The same way IMU considers a state of domination being a bliss. Luffy calls him a liar. It's all a sham. It is all a sham. It's fugazi. He recalls what the Colosseum guys were saying. The light and the darkness here are polar extremes. All the toys in this kingdom were originally human. Dofi says that there are unlucky souls in every country. There'd be no end if you decided to save all of them. To save them all. Does the passing pirate fancy himself a hero now? Stop getting in my way. It's just ironic what Doflamingo is saying. He's the one that pretended to be a hero to get to the position that he did in Dressrosa as well. Luffy saying that you're in my way. You made my friends cry. You made my friends mad. And you still won't go down. So I'm taking it all on myself. And I won't let any of them die. You and your cage are in my way. And then Gear 4 happens. And Gear 4 obviously is when he just dominates Dofi. And even Dofi, like at the end, when with the King Kong gun, like he's still holding on to his like, he still perceives himself as some sort of god. You've got guts to challenge me in a mid-air battle. So this is the point where you show me your one-hit KO. Luffy says, I don't like you standing above me. You tried to trap everything within your own hands, so that you can control everyone, and it's suffocating me. Then blame your blood. You were born to be a human and refuse helpless puppets. I'm not like you humans. I'm gonna kick your butt and be free. I would like to see you try, boy. Spiderweb, King Kong gun, yada yada yada. So, can't lie, bro. Like when it's very very similar, and that's why I fuck with Dressrosa, bro. Dressrosa, like even before this chapter, like even before everything I'm saying right now, like this, the messaging on it, it's just top tier, bro. Genuinely top tier. It's like, it's one of the most One Piece arcs, in my opinion. But one thing that I was kind of questioning after this chapter and after everything Emu was saying, it's like when he says, "Isn't that right, Joy Boy?" Like, you have a little flashback of him saying, "Isn't that right?" But was Joy Boy saying the same thing that Emu was? Or was he saying something completely different? He was trying to convince Emu. Emu didn't buy it. And is now essentially giving advice to someone from the grave, from beyond, to try to like speak what he's saying into existence, speak what he's saying into reality, speak it into it being correct. I can't lie, bro. Like, what I will say about this final villain shit, bro. Yo, this guy Oda likes making replicas of Emu before he actually goes out and fully characterize Emu as the threat. He ain't doing that shit for Blackbeard, bro, for a reason, bro. That nigga had to practice with Sky PR, practice with Dressrosa, bro, before he could get to Emu. He had to practice establishing these themes and these conflicts and shit, bro. No, bro. This guy Emu is just on a different level, man. Aura says, "Isn't that right, Joy Boy?" Could be nothing, but it could be Emu misinterpreting people of the ancient kingdom, placing their hope and trust in Joy Boy as Dominion. I don't know. I think Dominion is the wrong word. Because if anyone can give us a clue or an idea of what Joy Boy's philosophy probably was back then, is Luffy. And Luffy wants to be Pirate King. He doesn't want to conquer over anybody. He just wants to be free. He's not pursuing power with the drive of envy and negative emotion. He's chasing power to protect his friends, his loved ones, the people he cares about. He's striving for strength to preserve his own freedom, to maintain his own freedom, to protect his own freedom. That's what Luffy's whole thing is. If you look at exactly what Emu says, right? Okay, it is the nature of man to crave strength. Okay, cool. Fine. That in of itself doesn't necessarily have to be wrong. When power so lusted after is too easily gained, it leads to corruption. That could be true. We've seen examples of that. Crocodile's a corrupt guy. Parts of the world government have corrupt factions. We've seen corrupt kingdoms. Cool, that exists. Fair enough. Choosing servitude out of self-interest. Luffy doesn't agree with that. His covenants, his quote-unquote covenants, are the bonds that he creates with people. They're genuine. They come from people, him actually moving people's hearts to people actually willing to follow Luffy, to be connected with Luffy, to believe in him, to actually take on board his spirit. When Law partnered up with Luffy in Punk Hazard, Law was willing to die next to Luffy if Luffy failed against Dressrosa, because Law led Luffy to this result anyway. But the reason why he put his faith in Luffy as well is because he believed in what Corazon said about the D will always bring the storm. And that because Luffy's a D, Luffy's actions, who he is, has allowed Law to have faith in him. He's not even part of his crew, but he's formed a bond. It's not a forced covenant like what Harold got himself into, or what Emu contracts other people into, but is genuine bonds. It comes from Luffy's own merit. And the envy the envy that seeks to achieve one's goals, the power of omen, Luffy isn't driven by envy. He's just driven by his own freedom. He's driven by his own. He's driven to protect the people he cares about. His own freedom, his own morals, his own worldview. He wants to have a world where everyone can eat. So where Imu believes in a world of dominion and a world of domination will create a bliss, because if he's the one that can superimpose his worldview and his ideals, to him, he arrogantly believes that he can create a utopia for the world by casting the losers to the corners of the world, and just to highlight the kingdoms that can even afford to be in the world that he is creating, Luffy just rejects it. Like the more I look into Imu, the more I can't understand why he wouldn't be the final villain. He's literally the antithesis of Luffy in every single way, shape or form. Even though Blackbeard obviously is an opposite of Luffy in some regards, they're actually very alike as well. I think Imu just embodies everything that Luffy isn't, to the T, to every single part of it. Every single part of it. It just holds so much weight that I can't shake the idea of Imu not being the final villain. It's just too profound. It's just too in your face. It's too blatant. It's too powerful. It's too emphasized. I don't even know what other words I could even say to illustrate what I'm saying, or what I believe, or how this even comes across to me. But these are just my personal opinions. That's just how it comes across to me. Another thing I kind of picked up on when I was collecting panels for that thread in Dressrosa, I was reading over the Tontata history. You know, the Tontatas are one of the few tribes that actually know a little bit of what was actually going on in the Void Century, at the very least as it pertains to their own people. They have records, not necessarily of the Void Century itself, but just before the Void Century, 900 years ago. Before the Riku dynasty, the Tontatas had an era of slavery. It was their darkest era, their darkest period. And it was led by the Don Quixotes, who were the nobles of that kingdom. It leads me to believe, because if the Don Quixotes were part of the alliance that Imu led against Joy Boy, then did the 20 kingdoms actually all have that sort of methodology where they just seem themselves as greater than others? They actually were just genuine prototypes of the celestial dragons that we see today? Or did Imu force some sort of influence into them? I'm not too sure. Or could it be something to do with Davy Jones as the king of the world? I don't know, because the Davy Jones being the king of the world and that shit was going on under his watch. I don't know about this Davy Jones guy. I don't know about this guy, honestly. I think Blackbeard is the final villain because of the opposite. Blackbeard is a dark mirror of Luffy. But I don't know, bro. Like, even though I agree, I just think Emu is a dark mirror of Luffy in ways that Blackbeard isn't. That Blackbeard can't be. Like, this, it's just a stature difference. I can't lie, bro. It's a magnitude difference. Oh, no. Anyway, I'll leave that there, and I'll kind of end the last things I actually think about this chapter to this. This panel right here. I know I sound like a broken record. I've been talking about this for weeks. Some of you might be tired of me even saying this. Some might agree, but don't want me to keep saying this. Some people may disagree and just hope that I shut the fuck up about this, but I can't lie. Emu offering Loki the power of God and to step beyond all others is TikTok for Loki, man. It's TikTok for Loki. That Domi Reversi, that Force Covenant, however way it comes, I can't lie, bro. It's not a matter of if to me, it's a matter of when. It's a matter of when. It's a matter of time. He will feel what Harold felt. He will despair what Rox despaired. He will lose what they lost, but the difference is they didn't have a liberator. They didn't have a Luffy. They didn't have a sun god. Loki thinks he's a sun god, but he ain't a real sun god. There will be someone that will take him out of his misery. And I know some people don't like the implications of that because of how strong they think Loki is in comparison to Luffy or in comparison to others. But it's TikTok for this giant boy. It's TikTok. Right now I'm looking like Majin Buu sitting in front of the sand clock. I'm just watching the grains fall as the day arises. That fateful Tuesday arises when we get spoilers of Loki turning to the dark side. Emu leaving Elbaf to a Loki that has gained the power of God. Leaves Loki as the wrecking ball that'll tear the heart of Elbaf so that he can subjugate them in ways that he never could. In a way that he failed to with Harold. He will try to right that wrong. Like Emu said, the one that had the real misfortune on that day 14 years ago was Emu himself. It was Big Moo. And Moo is here to right his wrong. He is there to correct history. But there is someone in his way. There's a bright light in his way. There might be a dark cloud over the country currently. But when the clock strikes 5 in the morning and the dawn rises, it'll be another failure for Big Moo. It will be another failure. Oh man. Oh man. You know what they say, man? You've heard me say it before. History doesn't always repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme. It sounds very similar. It sings the same tune. It catches the same melody, but it's going to be stopped by another melody. The melody of the drums. The drums that were absent on that day 14 years ago will beat louder than it's ever beat. It will shine a bright light over the country. It will mark a brand new day. I'm here for it, man. I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I'm here for it, man. It's a matter of time. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I'm here for it. I'll be so sad if it doesn't happen. But I'll enjoy it while it lasts. I think Luffy loses to Emu, realizes he can't beat his worldview yet, then goes after Blackbeard and returns with a better answer and wins. It's kind of giving me Jiraiya vibes, man. It's kind of giving me Jiraiya vibes. Jiraiya goes up against Pain. He ain't got an answer to find world peace. Leaves that for Naruto to fill. Naruto wins Nagato over. But I ain't trying to see Luffy win Emu over. I'm trying to see him bury him 6 feet deep. Send him back to the darkness that he created over the world 800 years ago. But yeah, we'll definitely get some good shit out of this chapter for sure. Where's let me go into Discord. Let me see what Discord is saying. Holy. Bro, these guys are just talking about fucking Emu being a swordsman. I can't lie, bro. This Emu swordsmanship got to stop, bro. This Emu swordsman shit has got to stop, bro. This is fucking disgusting work. Yo, this is disgusting work, man. Good riddance, that guy Worst John is gone, bro. That nigga privated his account. I hope he continues to look over his shoulder as the Policia raid his house, bro. Hack into his files, into his hard drive, find all his connections, lock all them niggas up, bro. It's people like that are giving us a disservice to this community, making it toxic, making it just full of Neanderthals, bro. Bunch of knuckle crawlers, knuckle walkers, bro. Anyway. Vegapunk is right about not knowing who is right or wrong. I can't lie. You know what's the craziest thing about Vegapunk saying that after, like, saying that in his speech? The fact that he read things from Joy Boy's account, bro, and he still didn't know who was right and who was wrong, bro. That's crazy, bro. As soon as I saw the Mihawk pose, I knew it was coming. Bro, it's disgusting, man. Honestly, it's genuinely disgusting work. No one questioned any of this shit from IMU when he was holding a trident, when he was holding a naginata, when he fired a shotgun. This nigga conjures up a blade one time, bro, and they wanna cause chaos. Just disturb people's peace. Take away the merits of what a good chapter is, bro. Genuinely, bro, this is my favorite chapter of the arc. The more I talk about it, the more it's my favorite chapter, bro. Nah, bro, yo, Zeus, get the fuck out of here, bro. Nigga said, whoa, hold on, Zage, the leakers are the ones who give us our source. They don't give us no source, they give us misery. They give us foolishness. That nigga Morgans is more credible than Worstgen. Morgans is more credible in reporting the news in One Piece than Worstgen is to things he sees with his own two eyes. With his own eyes in reality. Nigga can't communicate what he sees on pages properly. We can't be preying on their downfall. Dudes like Worstgen are going to this community and help the fandom what it is. No, he has not. The fandom existed before Worstgen. It will be okay without him, bro. I'm so sorry, bro. And he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. That's the worst part about it. He knows what he's doing. It's not just some innocent ignorance, innocent mistakes. That nigga has premeditated intentions when he says things the way he says them about certain chapters. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's going to cause, because he knows his words for at least 2 or 3 days, depending on when the chapter drops, will dictate how people view the chapter before we see it, and his interpretations will become main stage for certain people, and it's disgusting. And it's disgusting. Maybe people will still be talking about Mihawk and IMU without Worstgen, maybe, but I know it wouldn't be as loud as what I'm hearing it to be right now. I know that for a fact it wouldn't be. I would hear some people say it in spots here and there. I know there wouldn't be a full day's discourse about it. I know that for a fact. There wouldn't be 2-3 days in a row of discourse about it. It will be reserved to a corner that is a loud minority that's here and there. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have to open up streams with some people. With the first thing that people are asking me is my opinions on that. Why the fuck are you asking me about my opinions on that? What do you think my opinions on that are? They're probably no different to yours. Because you're sensible. Because a sensible person looks at that shit and doesn't think it's what this nigga worst gen was trying to make it out to be. Bro, do you know how much it sucks as a Mihawk fan to see this chapter be excited because the IMU Mihawk connection theory grows thanks to it and people want to talk about Shanks. They want to talk about Shanks. How the hell did Shanks get into these conversations? The only way Shanks can even get into a conversation about this chapter is because he supposedly beat Loki and Loki is showing out to be pretty strong against IMU. That's the only way Shanks could be in any way relevant to the events of this chapter. If this nigga is getting into conversations through this chapter because of IMU doing Nemesis, holy fuck, bro. It's just goy slop. I'm sorry, bro. It's goy slop. One Piece slop, Zog slop, goy slop. It's just slop. It's slop combos. It's there just to irritate people. It's there just to distract people from the main focus. It's just there to just engagement bait, rage bait, troll. It's there just to create dishonest conversations. I can't escape this guy. I mute this guy on Twitter. I ban him from my Discord. I still see this guy. Why do I still see this guy? You know, everything went wrong in this One Piece community when Redon started when he started doing early leaks and he started posting GIFs. Yo, yo. You know how much that shit fucking annoyed me? Niggas will be theorizing about GIFs. This is the only community, the only manga that has spoilers provided in this sort of way. The only manga. I've never seen some shit like this in my life. A nigga will post a GIF and the GIF will be about the cover page. Niggas were making theories for a whole day, making discussions about a GIF that had no relevance to the actual content of the chapter because this nigga wanted to reference a fucking cover page. I'm sick of it. I'm sorry. It's tiresome. For as much good as Worstgen may have done for the community, he has done just as much, if not more, bad. He's a net negative, 100,000,000%. No one can convince me otherwise. Yeah, he's a net negative. Shit, if you're gonna make your presence in the community of something really and truly it's fucking unethical to begin with, at least do it with some sort of integrity. This thing has no integrity, bro. You're really actually deep it, bro. What he's doing is not even right. But he's not even doing what's wrong right. He's not even, I don't even want to be the moral police, bro. Believe me, if I was in this position, I might be providing leaks, whatever. I probably would do that too. I can't say I wouldn't. But there's no honor, bro. There's no integrity. There's nothing, bro. It's hollow. Bro, it's not exciting people trying to decipher gifts like they're poneglyphs, bro. Maybe I'm just different to some of you, bro. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the odd one out. Maybe I'm the minority. Maybe I just don't get it. I'm just not clued in. I ain't hip to this shit. Maybe I'm the one with the problem. Maybe I need to just leave you niggas fun to it. Maybe I just need you guys just to enjoy your fun and me try to preserve my peace as much as possible. Maybe it's a me problem. I don't see it. I don't see it, bro. Sorry, bro. I don't see it. Yes, bro, GIFs. Bro, you're not on Twitter, bro. Okay, you, bro, Aura, you must be someone that goes on Reddit or Discord or something. If you are on the One Piece Twitter community and you follow Read On and you see this nigga's spoilers, this nigga posts GIFs on like a Monday night or a Monday like afternoon to hint about what the chapter is. There hints. No other no other manga spoiler community does that. When JJK was coming out giving out spoilers, bro, you'd get the spoilers the day before of the chapter, full raws, all the translations there, bish bash bosh there. You have Blue Lock, same thing. Black Clover, similar thing. I will see all the raws. I wouldn't see no bullshit hints. Same thing. Every single other shonen community does like it does it differently to One Piece. It's the only one that operates in this sort of way with just the most annoying leakers, bro, behind it all. And you know what it is, bro? Like I don't even want to make it a thing where it's like, okay, they have their own preferences, they like certain characters and they would want to, you know, shape the narrative or shape the dialogue in a particular way that favors their characters. Cool, like I don't even want to say that is the main reason why I dislike them, but it damn sure is a part of it. It's damn sure a notable part of it. When this nigga Worstgen was making it seem as though Whitebeard was getting sabo diffed by Roger and Roger was pretending to fight him so that really he can get to Shaki, is when I knew this nigga was just, he was just full of shit, bro. Full of shit. He was completely full of it. And all of you know why I'm upset by that. You know why that got to me. You know what, I would hate him for that shit. I fuck with Whitebeard. I don't like this nigga lying on my guy's name. Nigga fucking lied. This nigga fucking lied because he thought that Roger was going to be on a completely different level and he wasn't. Motherfucker. This nigga was dead confused on where Whitebeard would rank in the God Valley battle because of his performance and what he's actually done. But prior to when the chapter was coming out, when he was dictating the dialogue, this nigga made it seem like it was certain away. And I don't even know how, like, it's countless things. If I had to bookmark every single time this guy has said some creditless shit or has tried to portray the chapter in some sort of way that is not, bro, my bookmarks will be full to the brim, bro. To the brim. Anyway. God knows it's not going to be the last time I talk about this. God knows it's not going to be the last time, bro. Maybe I will take out the time and actually like save the particular ones that I'm talking about when they come up. And maybe you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I just didn't really care enough to do that, but maybe I'll start having to do that. Lie is a strong word. He was mistaken is what I'd say. Mistaken is someone that I would say to someone that's just being innocently ignorant. How can you be mistaken with something that's right in front of your face? Unless he's kind of just a middleman. If he's just a middleman and he receives spoilers from someone else that sees it and he's only relayed information from said person, then fair enough, maybe there's a little bit of grace that could be given. But I don't know how the fuck these niggas source their shit. And quite frankly, I don't care. Because he's the biggest mouthpiece for it. And why is it that other spoiler providers in the past haven't operated in this sort of way? It's disgusting. I'm sorry, bro. Anyway, I'm gonna get the fuck out of here. No break next week, so you'll catch me next week on the next chapter stream. God damn. Rohan says, I saw Twitter talk about swordsmanship again, directly ruined my day. I need Oda himself to ban these leakers to ever lay their eyes on the manga, bro. That is facts. Salute to that, bro. Salute to that. Holy fuck, bro. We've let a good chapter be overrun by goy slop conversations, bro. I can't believe it. Can't believe my eyes, bro. My ears. Can't believe all my senses. Fuck. Anyway, I'm gonna lock it off. Appreciate everyone that's pulled up and stayed to the end. Join the Discord, link to which is in the description below. It's a Japan holiday break. Fuck. So we do have a break. Okay, whatever. Maybe I'll work on a video and put out something next week. Yeah, I got some work to do then. Whatever. Anyway, you know actually what I was thinking of doing? I was thinking of doing like a top 10 of every arc. Starting from Elbaf, go backwards. But I don't know how far I would actually go and how much I'd even commit to that. But I was thinking of doing something like that. So maybe that is something. That is something I was thinking, but I don't know. I don't know how far I would commit to it, but when I would start, I don't know whether to start with Egghead or wait for Elbaf to finish and then go backwards from then. But yeah. Arrived late. What's the diff with IMU versus base Loki? If I was to say what the diff was, I would say, including the moment that Loki had at the end where IMU is like caught off guard, daydreaming, I guess it gets pushed to a mid-diff. Maybe. But realistically, it's a low diff. Loki was kind of getting handled. Loki was getting reacted to pretty easily. None of his attacks were really working in base. He stepped things up with his Zoan. But yeah, I think the hybrid is when he's actually going to be starting to give IMU some sort of trouble. But in this chapter so far, base Loki and IMU is definitely a low diff. It's not competition. It's not close at all. I don't think Shiki has done enough to have his own video. He can get a mention in other videos, but I don't know. I can't lie, if I see you do a top 10 Syrup Village, you'll have negative views, my friend. Nah, it won't be Syrup. At that point, it wouldn't be Syrup Village. I'll probably do like an entire East Blue saga at that point. There's only fucking 100 chapters, bro. I'm not gonna do a top 10 of Arlong Park, am I? Or like Bharati 8 and have flipping, what's that guy's name? Poe in there. Like, get the fuck out of it. I ain't doing that shit. Yeah, I'll probably do, if I was to do it, I'll probably do it by sagas at that point. I'll do like East Blue Saga, Alabasta Saga, because that's like about, what, 100 or something chapters. Skypiea is its own thing. Ennis Lobby, Water 7 is its own thing. Dillabok is its own thing. Sabodi is its own thing. And then probably do Amazon Lily and Impel Down together as one, and then Marineford as one, Fishman Island as one, Punk Hazard as one, Dressrosa as one, maybe include Zoe and Whole Cake Island, Wano as one, Egghead and Elbaf. Like, I'll probably do something like that. Anyway, I've been dragging the outro too long. Take care of yourselves.